Intro, the unseen whisper within. Have you ever had a moment where a thought appeared in your mind so clearly, so unexpectedly, that it felt like it came from somewhere else? Not from your memory. Not from your emotions. But from something deeper. Some call it intuition. Others call it conscience. But Carl Jung had a different term for it. He called it the self. And within that self, he believed, lives something timeless, something that connects us to the divine. Because sometimes, God doesn't speak through thunder or miracles. Sometimes, God speaks through your thoughts. In this video, we are diving deep into Carl Jung's hidden truth. The idea that the human mind is not just a biological machine, but a bridge between the personal and the eternal. And when you learn to listen to your thoughts, you might just hear God. Part 1, Jung's view of the self, not just you, but something greater. Carl Jung believed that there's more to you than your identity. He called that everyday identity the ego, the part of you that interacts with the world. But deeper than the ego, Jung said, is the self. Not your public mask. Not your job title. Not even your personality. But the totality of who you are, known and unknown. And here's the key. The self isn't just psychological. It's spiritual. Jung believed that when you connect to the self, you connect to something divine. Not a man in the sky, but a sacred intelligence. A universal order. He didn't talk about God in religious terms, but in deeply symbolic ones. He said, the self is our life's goal, for it is the completest expression of that fateful combination we call individuality. So what does that mean for you? It means your thoughts are not random. Your inner voice isn't just a mental glitch. When a thought arises out of nowhere, one that awakens you, warns you, redirects you, it might not be from you. It might be for you. Part 2, Symbols, Dreams, and Messages from the Unconscious. Jung spent much of his life studying dreams, myths, and ancient symbols. Why? Because he believed they were messengers. Your unconscious mind doesn't speak in words. It speaks in images, emotions, and archetypes. And sometimes, those messages rise up into your conscious mind as thoughts. Ever had a sudden realization? A powerful idea that came out of nowhere? Or a moment of clarity in the middle of chaos? That's not coincidence. Jung believed those thoughts came from the unconscious. And the unconscious, he said, is the voice of the self. In his words, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. And when you awaken, you hear more than your thoughts. You hear whispers from the divine. Part 3, Divine Intuition, How God Speaks Through Silence. Here's where it gets even deeper. Jung believed that intuition was a sacred function of the psyche. Not just a gut feeling, but a compass that aligns you with truth. In moments of silence, when you're still, when you're not chasing or reacting, you begin to hear thoughts that don't come from fear. They don't come from pride. They come from stillness. That's where God speaks. Not in shouting. Not in commands. But in the quiet thought that says, "This isn't right. You were made for more. Let go. Move forward." Those aren't just thoughts. They are transmissions. Jung never claimed to define God in absolute terms. But he understood one thing. If God exists, he would speak in a language we can hear. And that language is thought. Part 4, How to Tell if a Thought is Divine or Distraction. Of course, not every thought is sacred. Some thoughts are echoes of trauma. Some are manipulations from fear, shame, or ego. So how do you tell the difference? Jung gave us a clue. He said the thoughts that come from the self don't produce chaos. They produce clarity. Here are 4 ways to tell if a thought may be divine. It feels deeper than reason. You can't explain it logically, but you know it's true. It doesn't inflate your ego. It may even humble you, call you to something uncomfortable. It gives peace, even in disruption. The thought might challenge you, but it leaves your soul still. It returns. Divine thoughts don't fade. They whisper again. And again. And again. When that happens, pay attention. Because you're not just thinking. You might be listening. Part 5, Individuation, the journey to meet God within. Carl Jung's entire philosophy was built on one journey. Individuation. It means becoming your full self. Not what the world told you to be. Not what trauma shaped you into. But who you were meant to be. And on that journey, you face many voices. The voice of your past. The voice of your fear. The voice of your false self. But eventually, you reach a quiet clearing. And in that space, you hear something new. A voice that doesn't demand. It invites. A thought that doesn't push. It guides. And Jung would say, that's the voice of the self. The inner Christ. The divine spark. The God within. It doesn't matter what name you give it. What matters is that you listen. Part 6, the collective unconscious, shared whispers of the divine. Jung also believed that we are all connected. Not just socially. Psychologically. He called it the collective unconscious. A layer of the psyche that all human beings share. It's where myths are born. Where symbols arise across cultures. It's the part of you that instinctively recognizes truth. Even if you've never heard it before. So when you hear a thought that moves your soul, that reminds you of something you never learned but always knew. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. You're tuning into the deeper frequency that all humans carry. You're remembering something eternal. Something divine. And once you touch that place, you never see thoughts the same way again. Part 7, the danger of ignoring the voice within. Jung warned us, if you ignore the self, if you bury your divine voice under noise and distraction, it doesn't go away. It hides. It twists. It turns into neurosis, anxiety, and inner conflict. Because your soul doesn't stop speaking just because you stop listening. He wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So many people feel lost not because God is silent, but because they've drowned his voice. Under social media. Under business. Under the expectations of others. But when you begin to listen again. In silence. In solitude. In stillness. The thoughts return. Not just thoughts about what you want. But thoughts that remind you who you are. And more importantly, who you've always been. Part 8, practicing sacred listening, tuning into the self. So how do you tune into that divine voice? How do you recognize when God is speaking through your thoughts? Here are 3 powerful practices Jung would align with. Active imagination. Sit in stillness. Let your mind wander. When a symbol or thought appears, engage with it. Ask it questions. Dialogue with your inner guide. Dream journaling. Keep a journal beside your bed. Write down your dreams each morning. Look for recurring symbols, messages, or emotions. Your unconscious is speaking. Sacred silence. Carve out time each day with no phone, no noise, no distractions. Just sit. Let the thoughts rise. Don't chase them. Don't resist. Simply witness. Over time, you'll begin to recognize a different tone. A deeper energy behind certain thoughts. And you'll realize you were never alone in your mind. Closing, the voice of God within you. So what was Jung's hidden truth? It wasn't that God speaks only through religion or prophets. It's that God speaks constantly. Through dreams. Through symbols. Through the quiet thoughts that won't go away. The question isn't whether God is speaking. The question is, are you listening? Carl Jung never asked you to worship blindly. He asked you to explore bravely. To journey inward. To confront your shadow. To embrace yourself. Because in doing so, you don't just find healing. You find the divine. Not outside. Not in the clouds. But right here. In the center of your own soul. So the next time a thought enters your mind, softly, unexpectedly, powerfully, don't dismiss it. Don't explain it away. Listen. Because you might just be hearing God speak. Through your thoughts.